next, we are moving into the session of to Suffolk. We will be talking on sustainable cities, which will be in which the development will be happening on the sustainable manners. And it's handed over to Emir.
Thank you, Ridesh. I take great pleasure in introducing Şafak Özsoy, Chairperson, esrag Regional Committee, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East, including Pakistan. Şafak Özsoy was the founder of tulipsustainabilitycenter in Istanbul, Turkey, where providing consultancy on sustainability, climate, water, and environmental management since 2002. Oil spill and chemical spill contingency planning and risk assessment studies are also her expertise. She was a part-time lecturer at Özyeğin University giving sustainable development lectures. Özsoy has also been providing consultancy to the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction in Brussels since last year. She has 36 years of experience, starting with materials engineering and then moving to construction materials quality. She was a former quality and environment manager of Ital Cementi Group in Turkey. Also worked as an academic researcher formerly at the Transport and Road Research Laboratory in the UK. Özsoy graduated from Istanbul Technical University as a geological engineer in 1986. She has also finished SDG Academy Sustainable Cities program in 2019 and Energy Within Environmental Constraints from Harvard University in 2021. She has been actively involved in NGOs for 30 years and was also the founder of some NGOs, such as the Women Candidate Trained and Support Association. She served in the membership committee of the International Federation of University Women, Secretary General of the Turkish Association of University Women, and board member. She also served as the president of the Istanbul Soroptimist Club for 4 years. Özsoy was actively involved in the Habitat 2 conference and Beijing Women Conference and follow-up conferences. Özsoy also followed COP25 and COP26 conferences. Özsoy is a member of the Maslak Rotary District 2420 and Rotarian since 2004, and now chairing the RAG Regional Committee of Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East. And now I leave the stage to Şafak Özsoy.
Thank you so much, and I'll try to share my screen. And firstly, I'd like to congratulate the organizers, and you have an excellent work. And I believe such an important experiences will create a lot of expertise, will help to create a nice and important projects for all around the Rotarian clubs. And now the hardest work is going to start. I'm going to share my screen and always have a question mark whether we can share or not. Let me just share my screen in a few minutes. Okay, just a second. I'll share my screen. All right. Okay, are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, lovely. Okay, okay, I'll just get that one. All right, okay, just a second. Let me just start with saying that why is the cities are so important? Because the previous century, we are not dealing the cities such an important parameter of the life. Like the previous presenter, Umut, was just explaining that economic growth is not always everything. What it means that we need another argument, such right now we've been using sustainable management or sustainable cities or any other way of the sustainable lifestyle, etc. We need to understand in the first place that close to 2/3 of the world economy comes from the cities today. And by the year of 2030, this will raise to over 3/4 with close to almost $100 trillion a year of an economic output coming from the cities across the world. It is huge. And secondly, that as I said, that the sustainable cities are the 21st century idea that not only to save us from ourselves, but also transform our perspectives on development. Just bearing in your mind that the cities cannot survive on their own without food and water that largely coming from rural areas. Villages in a networked world cannot survive without the industrial products, technologies, and services that largely come from the cities. Hence, strong rural-urban linkage can help and extreme poverty and enable prosperity in rural areas and the resilience in the cities. Let's say that the 21st century cities and villages will complement each other. And after that, we can just say that the cities, let me just get that way, cities are affecting climate effect a lot. And climate change affects everything from geopolitics to economies and to migration. It's shaped the cities, life expectations, even the coffee and tea options or the wine options that we've been facing. When you think the cities, and we call it normally that the cities as a systems of systems, what it means that the cities link into the social, economic, and ecological, or another way, environmental issues together. And we need to understand that to manage the cities that need to get together, and each city has embedded within it multiple complex systems, such as land, transportation, waste management, water management, sanitation, housing, education, and healthcare. It's a huge. Actually, the cities are facing a lot of opportunities as well as risks altogether, but their responsibility seems that just a little, but in fact, our expectations is a lot. Just bearing in your mind that the cities as the centers of the cultural and the social transformation. So as I said, that the cities are required the system approach. What is the system approach? And just bearing in your mind that the previous century, we were just focusing on the development. No matter gonna be happen, the development, economic development is the priority or was the priority. But what happened in the 21st century that the economic priorities or economic development, we understand that this is not enough, and we need to get an ecological development, and we need to get an social development together. And only the economic development doesn't mean anything, because we've been facing tremendous pressure from the environment. So therefore, system approach will help the cities to create a continuous hub of the industry, innovation, and services. Just bearing in your mind that the system approach is an approach that required the cities has to create a sustainable management models in their management. What is the main problem is that as you know, that the cities are managing because of the rules of procedures, regulations, etc. The old type of the management models that we've been facing right now and trying to create a system approach. But the fact is that we have to change our management model in the first place. As we can say that the sustainable cities that many of you probably heard a lot, and the smart cities. If it's smart, doesn't mean that it's a sustainable. Somehow smart cities can also be understanding in sustainable cities, eco-friendly cities or resilient cities, and a part of the sustainability and low carbon footprint. In fact, we are in 21st century and always 2020, that the low carbon footprint doesn't enough at all. We've been facing 1.5 degrees that we are not reaching that target. So therefore the Paris Agreement target is fine, but we have already 7 years passed, but 1.5 degrees we can't reach that target. Our temperature and surface temperature is getting 2.5 degrees. So therefore we need to create a carbon-free environment. The energy efficiency, according to International Energy Agency, it's just telling that the technology that we have at this moment, that we can only reduce almost around 50 or 55% by the year of 2030 with the carbon emissions. but we wanted to get it carbon-free environment by the year of mid-century, actually 2050. So therefore, what we believe that in order to get a decarbonized world, we need a new innovations. At this moment, probably it's in the laboratories or training, trying sessions are going on. We need a lot again in order to get a decarbonized world. So that the safety is important parameter for the sustainability, not only with the environment, but the safety, gender equality, social part of the sustainability, less polluted areas, green spaces, and circular economy is part, but is a part of our topic. Good governance practices. Without it, it's impossible to create sustainable cities. So therefore, we need a framework of the good governance practices. How the cities can create good governance practices, or how the cities can create needs and expectations according to their priorities or materialities, I may say so. Today, if you look at the cities that mostly all around the world, we can see the cities that struggling with the water scarcity, and many of the Asian cities, even including Turkey, that we have a rivers, it's just getting black, and the river are just getting red colors. And it doesn't mean that we don't like the black or red, it's fine as a color, but the water color is actually blue. So therefore, the pollution is important issue for the cities all we are facing. Like, for example, the water, drinkable water is a human rights. And if you go to the Iceland, that they are selling, they can get a tap water. And while I was there, they said, don't buy a glass of water and or the PET bottle water, just get a tap water, because just you are buying the plastic PETs. So therefore, what is the difficulty? Why we are not drink the drinkable water in our sources? Around 40 years ago, we can drink the water in Turkey as well, in Istanbul. But right now, no, we can't drink the tap water. So healthy risks and the lower quality of life for their residents is also a big issue. I believe that the energy transition that we are right now, whether we like it or not, we are in the energy transition period right now. We are getting into the carbon neutrality. Perhaps that is a challenge for many of us, many of the old cities and the developing cities for better life. The city's mobility and transport infrastructure needs to be maintained in a more sustainable way that helps to livelihoods opportunities offered to its citizens. And carbon neutrality active transport systems in the cities probably provide lots of opportunities as well to improve cities' life. What we are trying to improve or suggest that the compact walkable cities. If you are in a city like in Istanbul, for example, and many cities all around the world, it's a huge cities. It's rather hard to walk around the cities, but our target is to create a walkable cities for the future decarbonized world. Let me just go to the EU's perception. Like EU has a great announcement in the year of 2019, just after the COP25 in Madrid, that I was also there, and they said we are going to decarbonize the world by the year of 2050. And then what happened with the Green Deal, and what happened that they started to change and many things. Actually, the Green Deal is not only the carbon and water footprint issues, is an issue to transition of the societies into the sustainability. In that case, if we look at the EU Green Deal movement, that the cities are getting to the involved with the convener of mayor, which is quite good. If the cities are getting signatory stage, then they will make a planning and reduce their carbon footprint accordingly. And recently, that engagement are required to reduce the carbon footprint by the year of 2030 up to 55% reduction. So what it means that if you are city are going to engage, if it's in Europe or closer in that continent, then you have to get a commitment accordingly. I'm going to give actual examples at the end of my presentation, the city's perception in Turkey, for example. Then you can immediately understand how that frameworks are so important. Because when the cities are getting involved with such an agreements, then they immediately create an climate and action plans, mitigation and adaptation plans accordingly. Without it, it's very hard to reduce their greenhouse effects. So let me just go to the another topic. When the cities wanted to create a sustainability, let me just say that each city has a different motivations. Even though it's a similar cities, etc., is not the same. Each city dynamics are different. Each city's needs and expectations are different. Sustainability is a huge and deep line, and I'm afraid there is no one specification that each city addressed accordingly. There are so many specifications or references or codes, then you need to be applied with it. So when the cities wanted to implement the sustainability in the first place, they need to understand what is the materiality topics of each city. For example, some cities are focusing on the cultural heritage, as well as water supply management, as well as digitalization or high tech, etc. But some cities are just creating another things. So therefore, number one for the cities, they focusing on the materiality topics, and then to find out the stakeholder engagement. Again, the early of the presentations, this conference, that some of the presenters was talking about stakeholder engagement as well. So imagine that the previous century, the stakeholder engagement wasn't issue actually, because there are two-way communication, but this century, we have a multiple communications. So you have to understand each of them needs and expectations, and then make your planning accordingly. You don't have a chance that I close down my my borders. I don't want to listen to you anymore. It doesn't work in that way. Therefore, public sphere and political spheres are also so important, and you need to consider all of them together and link into your materiality index, and then to create your sustainability strategies to further development. Without it, it is hard. As I said, that the sustainability is a complex issue. We call it systematic approaches. System approach need to manage the sustainability. For that reason, I put it as well as for the companies, as well as the cities, we use it environment, social, and the governance scorecards. So that in general, environment is related with the science, and many of the issues under the environment is regulated properly, and the western part, eastern part, etc. So therefore, and the limits is getting from the regulations and the law as well. If you don't, then you can always get a code and to create your own regulations. And the second one is the social issues, and social issues are also linked into the moral issues as well, and the human rights issues is so important under the social issues. So therefore, you have to regulate your social parameters as well. And as you know that the environment is not, sustainability is not an issue of the environment. The environment, as well as social issues, as well as governance issues, are so important. We need to get a balancing decisions in our cities, in our city lives. Just bearing your mind why the cities are so important. Because we are an esrag, we would like to create a sustainable lifestyle. It's our topic, and we need to create at our Rotary clubs a sustainability lifestyle. Individuals can create a certain things, but secondly, we need an environment. Our environment or ecosystem need to turn accordingly. For example, some time ago, I was just walking on the street, that I'll share my experiences, that I realized that all the food chain or restaurants are based on the meat actually, but we are in the 21st century. We got a shortage of the water, and we need a vegan restaurants as well. I was just trying to find a vegetable restaurants, you know, in Turkey that we have a nice vegetables, but I couldn't find the vegetable restaurants. All around the places are meat, and it's okay. Okay, meat is all right, but we need a vegetable approach as well. What it means that all the companies, hotels, need to create additional targets and additional menus and to promote them. We do have a responsibility as a cities, as a individuals, or as a companies, or as an NGOs to create a way and to change the society's habits. Without it, it's hard. And the third one that under the as the environment, social and governance scorecard is the governors. We need to create in the city level CSR implementations, corporate social responsibility implementations, management implementations, and the stakeholder engagement. Again, the previous century management model or individual management model, if you open up your arms, if you reach to whenever you are in, then that's your responsibility. So therefore, we say it that the responsibility is for the cities or the companies as well. So you can't really close down your responsibility in a small area. So in the city's management model has to turn into the sustainable management model. In order to do so, you have to set up scores accordingly with environment, social, and governance targets. And of course, while you've been set up such scores, you need to be reporting practices. Reporting is nice for the citizens, and it's nice for your stakeholders and the financial institutions, etc. Again, each city has a different dynamics. Each city have a different targets. Each city has a different sustainability city framework. This example is the framework of the city of North Vancouver that I love that one as well. So what I've been suggesting to the city is that we have a 6 capital model coming from integrated reporting. And environment, social, in order to say environment, social, and economic requirements, we call it 6 capital targets: that economic capitals, human capitals, ecological or natural capitals, manufactured ones, and social and networking, and then intellectual capitals. Just bearing your mind, in the 21st century, if you wanted to continue your life as a company or a city or whatever, and you have to set up innovation in your core businesses and link into the social and networking capital. Without that, it is hard, right? And then intellectual capital as well. Let me just move on to another slide. I'm sure that you are seeing my slides nicely and properly. I always worry about that. When we create sustainable cities, and one of the important parameter that the urban resilience that I'm working for this for UNDRR as well in Brussels, that at this moment that we are facing, or we are working with the climate change, climate risk and vulnerabilities, that all we are seeing IPCC reports that saying that the meteorological changes, as well as cyclones and rainfalls, etc., that the cities are facing. So therefore, while you are creating a framework for sustainability, just you need to understand to create resilience models as well. A few slides later, I'll tell you the reason for that. Because resilience is important, and resilience is an issue of the sustainability as well. We have to create sustainable cities or the companies, flexible companies, and the flexibility also link into the resilience as well. If you are not a resilience, and there is no way to live in certain years. And for the resilience issues that many things like urban governance, urban disaster risk management, planning, economy, and society things under the urban and resilience infrastructure, etc., is getting into your materialization. And then you need to find out your topics coming from urban resilience, as well as a few slides before that I also said that the materiality is an important parameter for your normal management tools as well. And then you create a city resilience framework for the action. Without this, you can't really survive for a long time. Why the cities are so important? Because the economy is based on the cities, actually. If the economy is broken down, and many things happen, and the life is broken down as well. So therefore, we have to understand that the public transportation, green spaces, green buildings, and smart cities are part of the sustainable cities under the environment topics. So is a city's good success model that I shared various reporting practices, and the cities are free to choose one of them. And some cities are reporting with the CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project. Some cities are producing climate reporting, or some cities are doing integrated reporting. All of them are very fine, and just do it, because the sustainable reporting, encouraging the cities, is a good example for the improvement for the societies through cities' perspective. Then the subject is reporting. Then we need to understand the measuring targets and economic targets and society targets and governance and environment targets under the city resilience project. So as you know, that without targets, you can't really create an improvement. And if you wanted to improvement, then you need to set up a solid metrics. And without metrics, it's hard. So therefore, I've been encouraging the cities to set up metric targets for the improvement. In this century, actually, this slide is coming from IPCC's recent report. As you can say that basically our century are focusing on the risk and risk management, but we are facing with the climate change difficulties. In that case, managing the risk is not enough. We are turning to our societies into the resilient societies, and our future climate change is actually changing the management model into the resilience management model. So therefore, we can't improve our planetary ecosystem health with the risk management. We have to get into the resilient perception. In this case, probably in 10 years from now on, we're gonna hurt a lot for the resilience. That at this moment that we've been working with the resilience of the cities and creating scorecard issues for the cities, index, etc. Now, perhaps another interesting topic, I'm hoping that you can see what is the situation in Turkish cities. Like the COP25 a few months ago in Glasgow conference, the climate conference, that I prepared a specific session for them that study the roadmap to resilient cities. And the Turkey already announced carbon neutrality pathway, and our target as a country is to get a decarbonized the year of 2053, which is nice. And I'll show you that where we are right now. We are in Turkey right now. We have almost 30 metropolitan municipalities. By the way, we have a classification of the municipalities. Altogether, 1,359 municipalities that we have, and 30 of them metropolitan municipalities. Why I'm sharing this? Because the reason is that almost half, or a little bit less than half, metropolitan municipalities have a targets for reduction. So what it means that we have a huge pathway. How are we going to get a decarbonized world without targets? So what I'm expecting that in a few years now, all our cities are getting targets to get a climate action plans, as well as adaptation plans, and to get a decarbonized way. In order to get a mid-century decarbonized way, and you have to get inventories in the first place, you have to make your carbon footprints in the first place. Without carbon footprint, you can't reach the mid-century's decarbonized world. And then you have to put the mitigation targets. How are you going to get a mitigation targets? In Turkey, most of the, or started some of the municipalities, let's say not all of them, some of them, but I'm hoping it will be all, is addressing EU's governors agreement, co-winner of governors agreement, when they are getting there, and that pledge have targets. And then when you have a target, let's say around 2030, the targets will be 55% reduction. Then you need an action plans. When you have an action plans, then you need an adaptation plans. This is the target way for the cities. And all those have do not have any decarbonization roadmap. Just bearing your mind, in the first place, in the city target, you need to put an inventories to put a carbon footprint in the first place, and then the mitigation targets, etc. In Turkey, as I said, that the big metropolitan cities, less than half of them already targets. But again, we have a lot of municipalities. Let's say we have a 80% improvement. 80% of the municipalities do not have an action plan so far, one way or another. I'll share a few of them already prepared action plans, the climate action plans, not on all of them adaptation, but action plans. At this moment, they've been preparing, updating their plans, around half, but we have halfway to go. I'd like to share the Istanbul, which is the largest city. The population is, I guess, is getting to 20 million right now. I left in 15, but now I'm getting 20. It's a lot, huge. Istanbul city is announced to get a zero pathway in the mid-century last November in the Glasgow summit. And at this moment that they've been preparing their adaptation plan, and their target is getting 82% by the level of 2019 comparison year. And what they are saying that we're gonna get emission targets, an 82% reduction, which is huge. It's not an easy target. It is hard target. And another city is the Muğla city, again, in the southern part of the country, southern part of the country. And so they do have a target as well, reduction targets, updating targets. And another important issue that municipalities are creating environment departments, climate departments. I'm always saying that the climate is an issue, cannot be managed under the environment, because the environment itself huge as well, but the climate is a specific issue, and you need create departments in order to manage the climate. For Istanbul, land use, forestry, biodiversity and agricultural issues and protection systems, waste management and energy generations and distributions, transportation systems and public infrastructure and building issues are concerned in the roadmap to 2050. But again, there are huge way to go right now. Istanbul, a metropolitan municipality, is announced that they do have an 18% renewable energy sources by the year of 2025, which is not a lot, it's just a few. So I'm getting close right now. What we are doing as a Tulip consultancy, we've been providing training sessions, sustainable training programs in the country to teach the municipalities that that's different idea and different management model in the first place. stakeholder engagement and workshops that we've been providing, as well as materiality and creating strategical part of the sustainability and resilience issues, scorecard implementation, as well as resilience index and assessment of the disaster and planning, sustainability reporting and climate action plans and risk and vulnerability assessment that we've been doing. And I'd like to thank you all. If you have any questions, I'm very pleased to answer. Before going to stop, and I'm saying that our lifestyle choices impact the world around us, and we have to find a ways to live better and lighter. Thank you so much. Ready to answer your questions.
Thank you so much for this very informative presentation. And I see a question in the chat. So Deniz asks, it is such an important topic that not only government, but all of the citizens also have to be involved in the process. Do you think including sustainable cities and our part in the school curriculum is appropriate, or can we find another way to interactively include the general public?
Well, let me just thank you so much, Deniz. It's such an interesting question, an important question. Let me just answer with that. Let me just say like that. And stakeholder engagement is important parameter when you create sustainability. Schools are also a part of the infrastructure. So therefore, because another important, what you mean the schools, perhaps the universities as well, let me just say, because let me just focus on the universities. Innovation and the technical diversity or technical developments are coming from the universities. So therefore, schools and the cities are the same environment and the same ecosystems. So therefore, the universities has a unique role in the sustainability. Not only the universities, also the political parties, all the stakeholders, whether it's powerful or not, because just bear in your mind, some stakeholders may not be powerful, but they have a very crucial role in the city's schedule. In this case, that the attractive or let's say very extensive stakeholder engagement is an issue for the cities in order to create their sustainability model in the scale, city scale. So yes, that's very important, and the schools and cities and everybody can come together and talk together to create a better environment for all the citizens. And the schools, parties, and everyone is a part of the city environment. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. And I think someone else does also have a question. Can they write it in the chat or the Q&A section? Deniz also has a follow-up question. She says the budget also is a crucial parameter in this equation. How much the other countries allocate money to improve being not only smart, but actually sustainable city?
Yes, thank you so much, Deniz. Like, for example, some time ago, we started to make a sustainable cities videos, actually. Like, for example, the US, someone probably from US, like a Pittsburgh and the previous centuries, that is a city of the or heart of the city of the coal production. And what happened that later on, the starting of the city schedule, the coal was very important. But what happened that when the coal production is closed down or the city sources are getting polluted, that the city a few years ago decided that to turn into the different parameters. That now the city turned into the high-tech city and laboratories, universities, etc. So that the previous years, steel industry and the coal industry was very powerful in Pittsburgh. But what happened that century targets and turned into the different parameters. Another one, for example, in Austria, in Vienna, for example, Vienna have a role for a digitalized or Europe high-tech city. In the city schedule, when they prepared their targets in the first place, there are many ways to find support from various organizations, actually. But the city, or another way that the city has to understand their way to go. For example, another city example from Melbourne, for example. I was in Melbourne. It was hard for me to get to use the city. A few days I spent, but later on, I connect the city. Citizens and or persons and the cities have a personal connection. And what happened for the Melbourne, Melbourne previously, it's a heterogeneous city, and the people just come and work and then leave. But what happened that Melbourne turned into their perspective into the let's say energy or motivation city, and many people are getting there, spend their time, all the food restaurants and everything in there, spend some time in there and not leaving to the outside of the city, just coming to the work and then leave the city. But what happened that their strategies changed. Another one is that the water reduction in the city, and the city is reduced usage of the water accordingly. And so each city has a different motivation. They have to create their sustainability framework in the first place, and then to create what direction they want it to go, and then to find or create projects together with the citizens and any other stakeholders, and turn into their way accordingly. Or another example for the Zurich as well. By the way, in our in our YouTube address, that there are huge of the cities, and of course it's a Turkish, I'm afraid, but you can see the English ones. We prepared a lot of good examples in there. Thank you.
Again, thank you for your answer.